Nobody will be able to get into that. Now we have a matter of records in that case, Colonel. And I have the honor of placing the first Ypsilanti Historical Society meetings at this case. And I hope that everyone who picks one of these up will get to know you. And it's been an honor to get to know you myself personally. As a matter of point, Colonel, one last salute. Detail. And salute. Two. Bless all of you for being out here today. Al Russo did a wonderful job organizing this. Some snacks or something. Oh. That's what you get for having a bad memory and not having a program. Excuse me. General, would you please read one of the...
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out here today to support Lieutenant Colonel Kettles in this award that he should have received years ago. This was a wrong, it should have never happened. Now it's wrong, it needs to be right. So I want to thank everyone for my effort to be part of this. I was in Vietnam after Colonel Kettles. I flew F-4 Phantoms, a fighter aircraft, and I did some riding in helicopters, but I'll tell you, as a fighter pilot, we never got less than 500 knots. If you got below 500 knots, your radar operator in the back seat was telling you to get some speed on this thing. In fighter airplanes, speed is life. These guys flew around at 80, 90, 100 knots. While we would call fast movers, we called them retards. Right down there, all the time. I did end up flying in some helicopters as a passenger later on, and did not care for it. So I really appreciate what you've done. And like what John said earlier, if you weren't in Vietnam, and you hear all these words, you understand them, they mean a lot to you. For those who were there, it really means a lot for what he did on a particular day. And I'd like to read a statement from a Sergeant E5 Dewey Smith, who was there on that day. As a witness statement. On the morning of May 15, 1967, Weapons Platoon and the 3rd Platoon of B Company was to be airlifted into the landing zone to provide support for the Tiger Force to facilitate their extraction. Weapons Platoon was on the first lift into the landing zone around 0900 hours. There was intense enemy fire directed towards us as we approached the landing zone, and heavy small arms, machine guns, and mortar fire directed towards the helicopter as we unloaded and made our way towards the perimeter. Within the first 10 minutes, everyone in my squad had been wounded, except for myself and the man operating our machine gun. Around 1800 hours, that's 9 hours later, we received words that we were going to be extracted. Those of us loading the helicopters had the last one loaded, and when they took off, we realized there were still 8 of us on the ground and there were no more helicopters. We all figured we were done for, when at the end of the valley we saw one lone helicopter headed our way. There were so many tracers climbing towards that helicopter that we figured the pilot would abort the landing. The helicopter was coming in so fast that when it touched down, it bounced several hundred feet before coming to a rest. As we were running towards the helicopter, I could see tracers going past my shoulders, and they looked to be impacting the back end of the helicopter. As I climbed into the helicopter and sat down on the floor behind the pilot, there was a mortar round that went off just outside my line of sight. Several guys a couple of feet from me yelled that they had been hit. As the helicopter was pulling up to clear the surrounding hills of the valley, it lurched and started to fishtail. I saw that one of the men was no longer in the helicopter, but was hanging onto the skid on the left-hand side. He was able to make it to the strut, and with some help from us, he made it back inside the helicopter. When we got back to our area, I saw that there was a section of the nose bubble broken out by the mortar round, exploding on takeoff, and there were bullet holes all over the helicopter. I found out the man piloting the helicopter that got me out of that valley was a Major Charles Kettles. I am convinced that it had not been for the bravery and action of Major Kettles on May 15th, 1967, I wouldn't be alive today. That's a real testimony.
Amen.
I'd like to end by saying that Lieutenant Colonel Kettles did 2 tours in Vietnam with that 25 air medals equated to 675 air assaults. I had 125 missions, so if I'd have stayed another 4 or 5 years, maybe I could have gotten But thank you for what you did, and you definitely deserve this honor. Thank you.
One thing of greatest importance in this whole thing, though, is that as a result of that mission, there are some 44 names that are not on the wall in Washington.
Yeah.
That's what's really.
Amen. What wasn't told was Colonel told me that the ship that he did get back to base was scrapped right then. It was so shot up and busted up that it was scrapped out. Lord was with you that day, Colonel.
Amen.
Charlie, at one point at the Thanksgiving dinner, I just